Anyway, so here's day 2 of my attempt at learning how to make a roguelike in Rust using ECS. So I got 3 things I'm learning simultaneously. Yesterday, where I left off was building for the web. I was trying to get this to work in my web browser. So let's check the stream here. It still says unstable. I guess we have to live with it. What I did was I localhost 4000 after starting a basic HTTP server. Localhost 4000 / wasm, and it didn't work. And let me pull up the JavaScript console, and we look to see we had a bunch of not founds. And I think the problem was, let me actually run that in a separate window. Kill that. What do we have here? We have basic HTTP server, and I think what I can do is take a look at the index. And yeah, that's what I did wrong. I copy pasted. So this is my blob.js. I think it should be RT. I'll double check that. RT. Yep. Okay, so maybe this will work. It hasn't crashed. Let's do a reload. And now we're getting not found. Which is what we were getting before. Sources. We don't see anything. I gotta be able to figure this out, right? Wasm index.html. No, it's still saying not found, and this is not complaining. Was it -X? I think was one of the options. Turn on extensions, but I don't know what the extensions do. I was hoping to be able to see what it was looking for here. Oh, I know what the problem is. I'm not even in the right directory. Documents dev rt. Right? Yep. Let's just run it in here. And then go here. Go here. Okay, now we're getting a little further. Unhandled promise rejection, unreachable. RT BG wasm. And it's right there. So I wonder if it found RT. Yeah, it found RTJS. But it couldn't load this resource. Did it say anything? It didn't say anything. I have a typo in it, or maybe there shouldn't be a /. Huh. RTBG.wasm. Make sure there's no weird characters in there. Yeah, it's there. Maybe the basic HTTP server doesn't serve. No, but it's a static file. Let me see if I can pull up the RT JS. That gets loaded. RT BG. It's saying not found. What's going on? So yeah, root_dir wasm. What if I Is there any other way to get this to be found? What if I copy it to a different name? We'll call it foo.html and see if that finds that. Right. Yeah, so it finds it. So maybe it's wasm. Ah. So it downloaded it. Okay. Still unhandled promise, runtime error, unreachable. Wonder what the problem is then. Something in my main. Yeah, RLTK builder. And try rebuilding it. What was the command to build it? Wasm bindgen. I might still have that in here. So let me do a full build. Cargo build release. I might have this release. Yep. So it's rebuilt. Wasm bindgen. rt.wasm. Output directory is wasm. That's now. Hit reload and it's still not found. Thank you for the follow, Niantastic. Just struggling here trying to get my basic HTTP server to serve the wasm file, and it doesn't wanna. Okay, well, there's a bunch of different ones. I don't want to build my own. I don't want to write a Python one. I was hoping just to be able to have a quick and easy command that would just work. Nice to meet you too. You're just watching me struggle. Unfortunately, nothing fun happening yet. I'm hoping to be able to get to actually writing roguelike code, and I will eventually if I can figure this out. So let's see, just double check. rt.js is able to be read, but rt bg wasm. So when I do that, it wants to download it. But here, I wonder if there's nothing here. Elements. Okay, we'll get to Rust hopefully soon. Right now, it's just a matter of debugging this. And there's got to be. Maybe if I do this in Chrome, it'll work better. I wonder, but that would be annoying that Safari is rejecting it. I'm going to try starting Chrome off screen here. And try to load it that way. If that works, then I'll move that over. Localhost 4000 index.html. Yeah, that works. All right, so there's something up with Safari that I'll have to figure out. So let me pull this away and put Chrome over here. Down to the left. Use that on the right. Gotta figure out where 80 columns is. That's 87. And then I will pull up the other document that I was using. Oops. That was dumb. Okay, so we have the roguelike sort of working here. And let me pull up developer tools so we can see console messages. Why is that there instead of on the bottom? There we go. Console. Under a fave icon. Okay, I'm not worried about a fave icon. Alright, so we got to this point here where we rolled wasm bind gen, and we've got our hello Rust in the toolkit running. So we got this, we did this, and we've got this code here. The roguelike tutorial. And this is what's showing up, which is great. And what's neat is it's all static files, so you don't have to worry about like a database backend or anything like that. You can just serve this all statically. I know Rust, so I don't need to understand this stuff, or don't need to relearn this stuff. And then there's tutorials. So we can take a look at this, but I don't want to just download code and run it. That doesn't help me learn. The way I learn is actually typing stuff in and seeing what it's doing. Wow, there's a lot of stuff here. All right, so I don't think I want to do any of that, actually. Updating the tutorial. I guess maybe if we run into problems, we can update the tutorial. Updating your project. We'll stick with the current version, or the version we're using. And in updating Rust, I just did that yesterday. So, okay, I think we're good. So now what I want to learn about how entities and components work, because this is a new concept for me. I've heard of it before over the past few years, but I never actually sat down to learn it. And I got 15 more minutes before I have to go, so maybe we can learn how this all works. Yep, class hierarchies, understood. So the entity component-based design tries to eliminate the hierarchy and implement components. So an entity is a thing, an arc, a wolf, a potion, an ethereal hard drive formatting ghost, and components are what you want to add. Okay, components are data, so you've got entities, you add components to the entities. 1.56, I heard that it's coming out soon. I don't know exactly when. But it's going to be called Rust 2021. I'm still on 2018. I'm not running nightly. You can take a look. Yeah, it's called Rust 2021, but I don't know when it's going to be released. October, maybe next month, possibly. I'm looking forward to it. I'll upgrade and see what breaks. So yeah, position renderable, hostile, melee AI, and ranged AI. So you build mobs with components for these things and some kind of combat stats. So the ranged AI, so these are components. So the AI is a component of the warrior, if I'm understanding this correctly. Components are like your inheritance team, but instead of inheriting, you compose them. Okay. And function composition is something that Rust is pretty good at. So maybe this will blend in nicely with Rust. And the S in ECS stands for systems. It's a piece of code that gathers data from the entity components list and does something with it. Drawing in an OOP system, object-oriented system, for each base entity called that entity's draw command in each CS system would say get all the entities with a position and a renderable component and use that data to draw them. So we're still looping over all the entities, but we're relying on the ECS framework to give us a list of the entities that need to be drawn. All right. For small games, ECS seems like adding a bit of extra typing to your code. You do the additional work up front to make life easier later. Okay. ECA is just one way of handling composition. There are many others, and there's no right answer. Well, but I want to learn ECS, so that's why I'm going to keep going with this. Including specs in the project. To start, we want to tell Cargo we're going to use specs. What are specs? Oh, specs is a... Okay. We should probably learn what specs is. Cargo toml. Specs is 0.16.1. Specs derive 0.41. We're not using that yet. Oh, here we are. Okay, so... And then in main, we've got these, game state, RLTK, RGB, and virtual key code. And then we're using specs. Prelude star. Not a fan of the star, but just following this for now, and maybe we'll come back and fix that later. Max min. Use specs derive. I'm assuming we're going to be using all of these in the subsequent code here. Yeah, old Rust uses scary looking macro use. We don't need that anymore. We need derivations from specs derived components, so we add specs derived component. Okay? Defining a position component. We're going to build a little demo. Good. Create a struct position. Okay. Oops. Struct position. xi32, yi32, and then impl component for position. Type storage is equal to vec storage self. So from what I understand of Rust, so we're implementing the component trait for position, and one of the parts of the component trait in specs derive is the storage type, and we're setting it to vec storage, which I'm guessing comes from specs prelude. Probably have a lot of components by the time your game is done, so that's a lot of typing. Not only that, but there's a lot of typing the same thing over and over again. Oh, okay, so we could just do derive component. Yeah, it makes it a little easier. Let's do that. Derive component. So I assume that just sets the type to this type storage to vec storage. Does it? This does it for us. Just like the other, derive clone and derive copy and debug and all that kind of stuff. Second part of putting a character on a screen is what character should we draw and in what color. To handle this, we'll create a second component renderable. It will contain a foreground, background, and a glyph, such as @ to render. Okay, let's do that. Derive component struct renderable. RLTK font char type. So that's coming out of RLTK, but we're not including it here, so we have to add the RLTK : : and then FG is RGB, and BG is RGB. Okay. RGB comes from RLTK and represents a color. That's why we have this up here. Otherwise, we'd be typing that every time. It's a plain old data stream. Yes, I understand that part. Good, good, good. So worlds and registration. So now we have two component types. We got position and renderable. That's not very useful without somewhere to put them. Specs requires you register your components at startup. You register it with a world. World is an ECS provided by the Rust crate specs, which we have. You can have more than one if you want, but we won't go there yet. We'll extend our state structure to have a place to store the world. Okay? Let us... Oh. I must have pasted that in by accident. ECS world. Okay. And now in main, when we create the world, we got to put an ECS in it. That makes sense? ECS world new. Right? Oh, and then we're changing it to mutable because we have to register these two guys. gs.ecs.register position and renderable. Okay. So far we haven't done anything that's going to change what our game looks like, right? Creating entities. Now that we've got a world that knows how to store position renderable, having these components simply exist doesn't help us. We actually have to do something. So we can create an entity with both a renderable and a position component like this. All right? And it looks like we're creating the player character. Let's do that. ECS create entity with position. So this is where the handy Rust stuff comes from, being able to chain these things together. I know people go back and forth on whether or not that's useful, but this seems pretty useful here. And then we have to put the RLTK again. RLTK to CP437. There's some magic. Wonder what that means. This code point, probably. RGB named RLTK yellow, and background is RGB named RLTK black. Oh, build. Okay. So does that put us in there? Oh. Somewhere we have to draw it, right? You can easily add a bunch more entities if you want. So let's do that. And then they're adding smiley faces. I'll hit copy on that. All right. So let's make a loop out of this. For I in 1, 0 to 10. And it's, let's say, I times 7, and y is 20. And then we'll put this in here. Right? And then red and black. Build. This is the first time we've called a for loop in this tutorial. Yeah, so this tutorial is teaching Rust by teaching ECS by teaching you how to make a roguelike. But I already mostly know Rust. At least the basics of it, so I don't need to worry about that part. Oh yeah, so 2 CP437 is a helper RLTK provides to let you type paste Unicode and get the equivalent member of the old DOS CP437 character set. Okay, I guess that's important for this whatever is rendering this thing. Oh, here we go. Now we're going to actually render it. So in our tick function, which is up here, oh, where's the tick function? Right here. We're going to, instead of printing this out, we're going to render these things out. So finally we'll actually be able to see the fruits of our labor. Positions equals self.ecs.read storage. Well, that's something they're not explaining. Position and let renderables equals self ECS read storage renderable. Okay, and then we loop over a tuple. Okay, this is interesting. Positions renderable dot join. Did I explain this? I'm not familiar with the dot join method on tuples. Asks ECS for read access to the container it's using to store position components. And we also ask for the renderable storage. It only makes sense to do our character if it has both of these. We need a position to know where to draw and a renderable to know what to draw. And okay, we're going to take a look at the specs book, but not today. The important part is read storage. We're asking for read-only access. This line says to join positions and renderables, like a database join. Okay, it only returns entities of both. Then uses Rust's destructuring to place each result. Yeah, so I got the destructure part, but I'm not sure about join. The join function returns an iterator. Rust has a great section on iterators. I know what iterators are. I'm just curious where join is coming from. All right, well, we'll continue. Let's draw it out. CTX set the X position, the Y position, foreground color, the background color, and the glyph that we're going to draw. All right, so can I just do a cargo run? If you typed it all, your main looks like this. Okay, so I can do a cargo run. So let me do that, see if it even builds. Cargo, what was it, release? Yeah. Oh, it's getting specs, so now it has to download and build specs. Oh, and of course I failed. I did not put the closing. Oh, I didn't put it on the position either. Oh, look at that. I messed up everywhere. So that needs a close, and this needs a close, and the for loop needs a close. And then that matches that. Okay, let's try again. Oh, I mistyped that, but we're not actually using these yet, right? So I'm going to comment that out anyway. And we're not using virtual key codes. So we'll comment that out as well. Local, oh, yep. Renderables. All right, so that built. So now bind gen, and then we should be able to load that up. Oh, look at that! It actually worked. That's really close to the edge there, but we got our add character, and we got 10 smiley faces. Sweet. All right, I think we're going to call it a stream. So thanks very much for watching.